Hello, everybody. Welcome to a moment of clarity. This is an important day. We're on the cusp of techno-fascism. We've seen it's in the past 24, 48 hours. Many channels have been demonetized or being crushed by YouTube. In just the past 24 hours, you have Graham Elwood being demonetized, Ford Fisher being demonetized, the progressive soapbox being demonetized. Which one am I missing? Convo Couch being demonetized. I assume I'm next on the chopping block. For some odd reason, I've been left alone for the moment, but we'll see what will happen tomorrow or the day after. YouTube is clearly on the attack at any channel that doesn't put forward the CNN or Fox News talking points. If you aren't spouting the garbage that comes out of either liberal media or neocon media, then you apparently are getting demonetized and sometimes even banned. Videos are being taken down. In the case of Ford Fisher, these are video and Status Coup, which I'm going to be talking to Jordan Chariton here in a minute. Jordan Chariton created Status Coup. But in the case of both those, they've had videos banned and taken down that were not even commentating. They were just videos of a Trump rally or video of a gun rally that happened in Richmond, Virginia. Not even commentating, not even saying, listen, everybody, this is great. Trump's a maniac and I love it. Not even any of that, just straight up holding a video camera. Here it is. Here's what's happening. That is getting pulled down by YouTube. We're getting to a point of suppression and censorship that is I think in many ways unparalleled since the digital age began. And obviously the demonetizing thing is designed to stop people from being able to make a living. I mean, they had already suppressed so many people to such a degree that very few can still make a living from doing independent journalism, doing the form of journalism or commentating commentary that is outside of your mainstream corporate talking points. Very few have even been able to maintain. I mean, I remember 4 or 5 years ago, there were a lot more that you could list that aren't there anymore simply because they couldn't, they've been suppressed to a level that they just couldn't make a living anymore. And that's the goal. But now they're taking another step and fully demonetizing many of these channels. I mean, it really is fucking incredible to watch. Well, anyway, I'm not going to talk much longer before I bring in our guest, but quick note, please do share this. Let people know I do have channels or platforms off of YouTube. It's not just on YouTube, but as I say, people will be like, how can you criticize YouTube if you're using it? How can you criticize Facebook if you're using it? And it's like, these platforms have become so large and so powerful that just fleeing from them is not the answer. You have to build up the alternatives while you continue to use such a powerful tool. I mean, I didn't spend 10 years building up 330,000 followers on Facebook just to one day go, I didn't like Facebook and run away. You should try and use the tool while you build up the alternative so that you can move beyond them. I talked to Susie Dawson yesterday, who's creating Panquake, which is one of the alternatives. There are others, although that one is definitely unique. But anyway, it has to be both of those factors. So take a second to share this. Click the thumbs up, and as long as I'm still monetized, all the super chat donations are going to Food Not Bombs this week. We had the creator of Food Not Bombs, the founder of Food Not Bombs, on a couple of days ago. If you haven't watched that one, check it out. But all the super chat proceeds are going to Food Not Bombs. Okay, let's bring in Jordan Chariton, the creator of Status Coup. Hello.
Hey, Lee, how you doing?
Hey, Jordan, thanks for joining me on this, in the middle of this fucking bizarre, aggressive censorship attack. Is your channel at the moment still monetized?
Funny, I have I'm just periodically all day checking my email, just waiting for that email to come that we're not. But at the moment we are. So, we'll see what happens as we speak.
But you have had other censorship attacks recently in the past week or two. Videos you've put up have been pulled down, right?
Yeah, rapid fire. About a week and a half ago, we had a live stream while we were live. 2 days before Biden's inauguration, so probably 2 weeks ago. My freelance cameraman, John Farina, who, like Ford Fisher, has been covering a lot of these extremist rallies, Proud Boys, QAnon, Trump supporters for months, not advancing the claims of election fraud, but just covering it through
acknowledging the existence.
Right. Frankly, great risk to himself. I mean, there's a pandemic. There's a lot of armed people at these things. While he was live from what was honestly a big nothing burger. I mean, it was there was more press than armed militia at this rally. It was billed as a gun rights rally
in Richmond, right?
Yeah, there was more press, and frankly, I thought airing it was helpful. A lot of these people who were, dressed in military garb were actually making clear right off the bat, we're not Trump supporters. We don't support what happened at the Capitol. And then they went into their gun spiel. But if you just listen to the mainstream media, you would think they're all disciples of Donald Trump, which isn't always the case. Right. So I don't know, about an hour and a half during the live stream, I went to get something to eat, and I start getting flooded with emails that the live stream just went down. I thought he just ended it because there was not much going on. So that's when I got a YouTube violation that we had violated their firearms policy, which I didn't know was a thing because there's gun channels all over YouTube and footage of cops with guns. And, apparently they just made that up after the Capitol attack, that any footage of guns, it will be taken down. And then yesterday, I got an email from YouTube that they were taking down what I think was historic footage from the Capitol attack that John shot. He was up close, during this whole thing. His footage was picked up by the corporate elites, CNN, NBC, ABC, Showtime, BBC. I mean,
yeah, they're not pulling down CNN's videos.
No. So they pulled that down, and the reason was it might violate YouTube's spam policy or be content that's advancing false claims of election fraud. So the whole thing is preposterous, and that, they've been taking down Ford's content. They just demonetized Graham Elwood's channel, some other channels. So, I talked to my partner, Jen, and I said, well, we better redo our website or something, because it's not really a matter of if, it's just when we're demonetized or worse.
Yeah, it's getting so aggressive. I mean, it really is getting towards a form of techno-fascism where I mean, even a New York Times opinion piece called it a coup over the pursuit of knowledge, in that the type of knowledge that you're allowed to get and allowed to disseminate is greatly being cracked down on. Now, that's an opinion piece. The New York Times in general would defend all of this if it ever even spoke about it, although this is kind of a deafening silence coming from the mainstream media, not even mentioning that all these channels are being banned or suppressed. Well,
honestly, I mean, I'll tell this story for your audience. It kind of reminds me, I was arrested in 2017 while covering a Black Lives Matter rally when I was at the Young Turks. And after I got out, I said to Jank, let's blow this up. I mean, this is ridiculous. They arrested me, a lot of other press. So I reached out to Mr. Reliable Sources at CNN, Brian Stelter. And I said, I know I'm not the Washington Post, but I would think maybe I could get like 20 seconds on Reliable Sources, because, they're basically just, before even arresting the protesters, they're arresting legal observers, the press. So why would they be doing that if not so we cannot show them cracking heads and all these things? So he told me, straight up, we don't really cover non-mainstream outlets. And that's what's going on here. I mean, you have non-corporate outlets that are not, that do not appease YouTube's corporate advertisers, that are they're using the purge or, getting rid of extremist right-wing channels as cover to just get rid of channels that advocate for Medicare for all or against war or against these major progressive principles. And they're doing it clearly because these independent channels are part of the reason you're seeing a massive increase in, support for Medicare for all. You're seeing a massive increase in support for a Green New Deal and, ending the fossil fuel reign of terror. Frankly, you're seeing more people discussing a general strike because of independent channels, not because of, Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi or Joe Biden. So I don't think it's a coincidence that this crackdown, yes, it's coming under the cover of getting rid of, right-wing extremism, but it's also coming when independent media has been a huge force for raising consciousness to these issues.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I mean, yes, we've seen a growth in let's say Trumpism, but we've also seen a significant growth in the number of people supporting Medicare for all. It's up to like 80% of Democrats or something. The number of people that say capitalism is not going to save us. It's 50% of people under whatever 25 or 30 believe capitalism is not the answer, and the oligarchs see the writing on the wall that they've lost control of the kind of the truth paradigm. They no longer can control the message. Back when there were 3 outlets telling everybody what to think, the Overton window was pretty small, and now they're losing that ability to tell everyone, listen, the truth is whatever we feed you. The truth about Venezuela or about Iran is whatever we feed you, and it really has gotten out of control for them. And so now you see these big tech oligarchs falling in line and doing whatever the government wants in order to suppress that ability to get out this message or to learn.
Well, also, I mean, let's be clear. There's still columns up on the New York Times pushing unnamed sources, i.e. Dick Cheney and Donald Rumsfeld, into the Iraq war. That's not harmful content, apparently, that killed hundreds of thousands, if not a million, Iraqis and other people around the world. There's content on the Washington Post and MSNBC that the Russian boogeyman and all these things didn't kill anyone other than our brain cells for 4.5 years. It was debunked time and time again by independent channels like you, Jimmy, and elsewhere. It's still up, not harmful at all, apparently. But, content showing, by the way, they just did this whole, live coverage of the Capitol police officers vigil, at the, he was lied in state or whatever. Well, how the hell would you know or have footage of what happened to these Capitol Hill officers if not for live streams like mine, Status Coup, shot by John? How would you even have the footage to know what happened if we weren't there that you just took down? By the way, like you said, I mean, all of the outlets that got that footage from us, their footage wasn't taken down. It's just the original source whose footage was taken down. I mean, it's truly unconscionable. And besides the fact that it's damaging to, Status Coup or Fort Fisher or you or other outlets, the real losers in this are communities, because the communities that are not getting coverage from their local media, that are not getting coverage from their national media. I'm thinking of Flint, Michigan specifically. Go back to Standing Rock. A lot of stories I've covered and other people have covered. They're really reliant on independent media just to alert people that this is going on. So if our channels are demonetized, and with that demonetization comes further suppression, it's part of the algorithm. You're hidden more after you're demonetized. Right. These communities, what's actually happening, which is poisoning, surveillance, corporations murdering them, nobody's going to know about it, and it's scary times. It's really scary times, not just for me personally, but just the information war in general.
Right. It allows for more corporate, oppression, more corporate harm to be done. Yeah, when these stories aren't getting out. Your model for Status Coup is pretty rare nowadays, because I think so few people can financially hang on when they're actually sending people on the ground to these locations to film footage. And other than Ford Fisher, I can hardly name another group that actually does that. And I think that's by design, to make it financially difficult to even pull that off. How's it been for you building up Status Coup?
Yeah, I don't think we would have been able to build it up if we launched like in March 2020. I think I remember in the beginning, some of the trips we took to Flint were basically just like savings I had, because we didn't have like a large GoFundMe or membership. Soon after that, we did get like a small investment from a viewer, actually, not a bank, which it was like 50,000. It pretty much went to equipment, so it was just like a one-time purchase. And after that, it's just been GoFundMe, which the GoFundMe has helped us get out to cover these stories. And while we've been out covering these stories, we were able to build our paid membership. So it kind of, one thing has fed the other, but it's extremely hard. And honestly, the more you grow, you have more expenses, because the more we grow, I need more help. I'm already working like 15, 16 hours a day. The more you grow, you need more content, as you know. The more you grow, like the live view that we had, which is the tech equipment we used to go live, was like bottom of the barrel. We bought it for $1,500, so we had to upgrade to the top of the line so that we could stream without constant freezing and things like this. Right. So honestly, we've been able to grow for two reasons. Number one, because my partner and I have worked 6 or 7 days a week for 3 years. But number two, because there is a huge demand for this. Frankly, I think TYT, regardless of me not being there anymore, had a real opportunity, because they showed if you have an outlet like TYT that has the resources, because they did have the resources, it's the sky's the limit. They could send people like me or other reporters to Flint and other cities. They're not doing it anymore, but I don't know many outlets that even have the resources. We've just been scratching GoFundMe quarters together, which has helped us grow our paid membership, but it's very difficult. I mean, I've been out in the field on trips that I've had to cut short just when I'm like building sources, because we're running out of money to be there for more days. And you're right, it's made that way intentionally. And there's also very few investors or larger funding you could get from sources that you'd even want to partner with. I mean, we had one offer from, I found out later, a Clintonite, that they would not firmly say, yeah, we won't have any editorial control. So it was a lot of money, and I turned it down, because I don't need a corporate big brother trying to whitewash what I'm doing.
No, the big money always comes with stipulations usually. Where do you see this going? I mean, we've been fighting this fight. We continue to fight this fight. What was it? It was like a year ago that 800 pages were banned from Facebook, including, or maybe more than a year ago, including Free Thought Project, Police to Police, Anti-War, Anti-Media. And, we all keep trying to raise the alarm and stop this shit, but it's just getting worse. Where do you see things heading?
I think we're headed for slowly but surely, they're going to move towards the medium-sized channels like they're doing now. I don't want to put this into the universe, but I would assume they're going to go for larger channels like Jimmy and others. And unless there's a galvanized organizing like there has been among the Sunrise Movement to protest politicians, like there has been among Medicare for All activists, unless there's protests not outside politicians, but CNN, NBC, the New York Times, Facebook, YouTube. I mean, these outlets have basically been able to not cover this, but just cover it up comfortably. I mean, part of that's because there's a pandemic and it's hard to get people out, understandably. But, the politicians, protest your politicians, but the corporate media and Silicon Valley that are now one and the same. Chuck Schumer's daughter, by the way, was a Facebook staffer for a long time. He got flooded with Facebook money. a Facebook comms person was a former DCCC guy. So it's all a revolving door. And you could protest your politicians, but until the corporate outlets and Silicon Valley, Google, which runs the world and owns YouTube, until they're shamed and made uncomfortable and their business model is threatened, nothing's going to change. I mean, I'm not saying, go do violence. I don't condone that, but there's no reason they should not be made uncomfortable and shamed and challenged publicly in large numbers for essentially violating the First Amendment. I mean, that's what this is. I don't want to hear about it's a private platform and this and that. Well, Mark Zuckerberg said, on the record, Facebook's like a government. Well, so is Google. And governments need to be regulated. Yeah,
no, the private platform or private company thing doesn't hold up when you have massive multi-billion-dollar deals with the government. The government is telling you what to do. Often, it absolutely doesn't hold up. And the number of people using it now, it's like Facebook's basically a secondary internet for the world with billions of people on it. And it should be regulated like a utility. Everybody should be given access, and the private company thing just doesn't hold up. I mean, the latest deal with the CIA and the military industrial complex was like hundreds of billions of dollars to Google, Amazon, all the big ones.
And I'm not saying not to, like you said, you could do two things at once. I'm all for Rockfin and other platforms to try and grow alternatives. But at the end of the day, just through online users' patterns, people unfortunately live on YouTube, Facebook, and these other platforms. So people like we need to be where the most people are, because not just for the information to get out, but we need to eat and make some form of income. So it's just, I think people don't realize that. Yeah, there's a lot of fronts you have to fight and protest right now. But the reason that we've had this neoliberal order for 40, 50 years is largely because of the hijacking of our media by corporations. If you actually had, you look at the UK, I'm not a big fan of the BBC, but you have a lot more adversarial press in the UK, or you used to, that didn't
They realized how adversarial The Guardian was, and now it's been captured.
Right. So, I used to watch like UK interviews, and the journalists there actually are tough and challenge politicians, and it's not a zero-sum access game. Here, CNN and MSNBC have been like slobbering over themselves over, President Biden, to the point that it's embarrassing. And by the way, let's also point out, and Crystal Ball did a segment on this earlier today. It's not a coincidence this is happening when CNN, MSNBC, Fox News ratings have plummeted. I said before Trump, cable news is 3 to 5 years for it facing extinction. Trump came, it was a massive sugar high for them, but now their ratings are declining again because you don't have the hour by hour reality circus. You just have, Sleepy Joe and, Marjorie, whoever, the QAnon congresswoman, but there's not that real-time chaos that those networks thrived on. So now they're purging outlets that pull in audiences, chaos or not. Outlets like ours and your channel, which, like you said, I think you had like a couple 100,000 on Facebook. People come to you not for like clickbait or chaos, but like in-depth investigations, and counter like alternative information, not alternative facts, but like actual information. And that is becoming extinct. And I really think at this point, the number one source that you need to be protesting is the media and Silicon Valley, because they are protecting the corporations who want us gone. That's what this is. When I read this takedown notice, content that might be harmful to our viewers and advertisers. Just take away viewers. What they mean is advertisers. That's what they mean.
Right. And the other thing that happened with the mainstream cable news was that people started realizing there was views and analysis that were outside of this corporate garbage. And so people were flocking, and up to 4 years ago, flocking to YouTube to watch shows like yours or mine. And you could look on, my videos were doing great, and you could look at a CNN clip and it would have 2,000 views, because who the fuck would go to YouTube to watch a CNN clip? It's like, it'd be insane. Let's go to YouTube and watch the corporate talking points. But then YouTube started shifting its algorithm because these corporate entities were getting upset. And all of a sudden you got CNN video. Every CNN video has got 50,000 views, and they've crushed alternative views simply with the algorithm. That's not even talking about the demonetizing and everything. But I don't want to run out of time without getting to some of your the impressive stories you've been breaking recently. I guess we're going to start with the Amazon worker you've been covering.
Yeah, it's just crazy. And it's part of what we're talking about. I mean, in a normal media system, this would be on the front page, but it's not. Recently, Amazon, we've heard the horror stories during the pandemic, them with the increased demand, just like economic Hunger Games, faster, more production.
And it just came out today that they were stealing a third of all driver tips.
Yep.
Which contractually they'd said the drivers get to keep their tips.
Yeah, no, Jeff Bezos needed 26 bathrooms instead of 25 in his mansion. But
yes. For all the diarrhea coming out of his face.
Right. So recently I was put in contact with a woman whose sister was literally testing other workers at Amazon, putting the nasal swabs for COVID. Not a nurse. No medical training. Amazon had this woman, Pashan Brown, and other workers, let's just paycheck to paycheck, poor people, playing doctor and nurse for months, conducting nasal swab testing on other workers. They did not provide Pashan with the N95 mask, surgical gloves, any of that stuff. Her sister, Christina, who used to work at Amazon with Pashan, had been fighting with her sister. You can't be working near people with COVID. Their mother was older, paralyzed from the waist down, has some other health problems, but Amazon had promised Pashan that they would give her a bonus for working in the COVID testing center. And a couple weeks ago, Pashan, 38, no real health problems, comes home, calls her sister, my head hurts. Next morning, makes her 12-year-old daughter breakfast, goes back to bed because her head's still hurting. She doesn't wake up. And, the family's poor. A lot of people think just like an autopsy is automatically done. That's not the case. It's automatically done if there's like foul play assumed and things like that. But for the most part,
normally there's not an autopsy unless there's something like a crime involved. Yeah.
Right. So the family asked Amazon, could you maybe lend us money or help us somehow to do an autopsy? Because wouldn't Amazon want to clear itself that she didn't have COVID? Amazon, of course, didn't respond to that. So they buried her, no autopsy. So, we don't know for sure if she had COVID or didn't. What I do know for sure is Amazon, and once I broke that story, Amazon workers from other places have been reaching out to me that at their warehouses, they had workers testing other workers. It then changed to workers self-administering the swabs to themselves, like average people just know how to do that and, know how far to put it up. And
how to make sure it doesn't get contaminated between there and the vial or whatever.
Right. And, a whistleblower at Amazon sent video showing that this space that Pashan and others were testing workers was extremely small. CDC recommends test outside, or if you got to do it inside a big space, there were no barriers or anything. It's literally, the media was slobbering over Jeff Bezos yesterday, who stepped down, and big hero. I mean, it really is the economic Hunger Games. They use these poor people, mostly black and brown, all over the country, and they don't care. They instead of hiring doctors and nurses to do the testing, which would have been pennies to Amazon and Jeff Bezos, they had the workers do it. And Amazon refused to talk to me on the record. They wanted to give me spin, on background. I told them no. And Then when Pashan's sister called to find out if her sister had a life insurance policy, the Amazon corporate officials, I was on the phone for this, literally demanded that her 12-year-old daughter get on the phone to give Amazon her birthday, social security number, and date of death, a grieving 12-year-old. So the whole thing is disgusting. The media, I know that the New York Times, Bloomberg reached out to the sister. They haven't done a story that I've seen, but this is what's going on. It's not just Pashan who died. Amazon, I'm getting messages from Amazon workers, rapid fire text alerts they're getting at warehouses all over the country, 5 to 10 a day. We have a new COVID positive. We have a new COVID positive. Of course, you can't social distance in a warehouse. It's not possible. But this is what's going on. And, I don't want to overestimate the benevolence of Americans, but I do think if more Americans knew the price of their comfort and expedience, they might have a problem with it. They might want to stop using services. For example, my nephew desperately wanted like a WWE ring for his birthday, and I sent it to him through another platform. It was more money, but I personally cannot, with a conscience, use Amazon anymore. It's just, they are literally willing to kill people for that 4-hour Prime window. And it's just disgusting.
Yeah, and some people were, I can't remember who I heard this from, but they were talking about the initial lockdown, and they were like, we didn't have a lockdown. We had the middle class and upper class staying at home while poor people brought them stuff. That doesn't count as a lockdown. And there was another article about, I think it was Pier 1 or one of those places. It was going bankrupt, and it basically had closed all its brick and mortar places during the pandemic, but their online orders were through the roof, tenfold during the pandemic. So they were doing great during the pandemic. But the problem was you had essential workers that are all getting ill to try and put up with, deal with this level of orders. And one of the quotes in the thing was like, look, I don't mind working in these trying times, but I don't want to die for someone's scented candles. Because that's what, people aren't just ordering necessities. They're ordering a bunch of garbage. And so, Amazon really set the stage for the way they were going to behave when I think it was probably 10 years ago now. But, in these giant warehouses that are the size of 7 football fields, it was so hot that people were collapsing and one person died. And rather than start air conditioning these warehouses, they just started parking ambulances outside of them to cart people off that collapsed.
And also, besides the moral aspect of all this, the fact that it's morally right for a $1 trillion company, they reached $1 trillion market cap last year, to have doctors and nurses and all that stuff on premises. They could afford it and then some. It would increase your productivity if you had that. It's like, the NFL, say what you want about the NFL. There's plenty to say. They were testing their athletes every day. I think those tests should have been to normal people, but whatever. If Amazon had the doctors and nurses at warehouses all over the country and actual social distancing, they could have drastically reduced the amount of spread in their warehouses and increased production. It's the same principle as like wealthy people. Oh my God, you can't raise our taxes, when in history, higher taxes have made them wealthier, have made wealthier people wealthier. So the greed is just, it's beyond unconscionable. It's, Dr. Evil level. And this poor woman, I don't know if she died of COVID, but we do know that COVID has resulted in blood clots. It has led to strokes. Yeah. So normally 38-year-olds don't just get a headache one night and then, die in their sleep the next day. And I just feel terrible for the family. I've spoken with this family. The 12-year-old now doesn't have a mother. The sister is now, Pashan's sister is now having to raise her 12-year-old niece. The mother is paralyzed from the waist down. So this is a lot. They have a GoFundMe. You could type in Pashan Brown. They've been able to raise money to, she now has to raise her niece and care for the mother full time. But it's really unconscionable. And, let's call it what it is. Washington Post, not going to cover it. Jeff Bezos owns it. New York Times, busy with other nonsense. So, I'm glad that the story got some attention, but unfortunately, the wider media won't touch it.
And also, one of the stories that you kept on when everybody else wanted to forget about it was Flint, Michigan. And just a couple weeks ago, former Governor Snyder is facing some crushing charges. The long arm of the law has finally come after him with 2 charges of misdemeanors. So I'm sure you're like, finally, justice.
Well, let me tell you a quick story, because there's different forms of censorship. One is just them taking down channels, and the other is corporate media outlets just literally passing on smoking gun information. So during the pandemic, I actually drove 9 hours to Michigan, compromised with my wife so I wouldn't fly. And I met with the Detroit Free Press in a parking lot because I had the goods. I got evidence that Snyder, the former governor, his chief of staff, the health director were on the phone scrambling 6 years ago on October 2014, a couple of weeks before his reelection for the governor. And they were on the phone over 2 days, 22 times. It was right when the deadly Legionella outbreak was all over his administration. The environmental department was talking about it. The health department was talking about it. And you have the governor, his health director, and chief of staff scrambling on the phone. They were talking over 2 days more than the investigators found that they had talked at any other point. The investigators, not my opinion, the investigators concluded they were covering up the Legionella outbreak, which killed hundreds of people. PBS reports it might have killed upwards of 115 people in Flint. So,
and that outbreak was connected to the same thing, that they had switched the water to the Flint River, right? Yeah,
absolutely. And I give it to the Detroit Free Press. I also had a briefing, like a literal briefing, in writing to the governor that same month, October 2014, that mentioned Legionella. Kind of a big deal since he went in front of Congress and said, I didn't know about it till a year and a half later. I think perjury is still a crime, but you'll have to check me on that. So the editor literally says to me, yeah, you have a lot of circumstantial evidence here. I said, I have documents from the criminal investigation, quotes from the criminal investigators saying this was a cover-up. I have a briefing in writing from the criminal investigation. Like, we don't have to prove anything beyond a reasonable doubt. And by the way, most criminal cases are built on circumstantial evidence, and they passed on the story. The Intercept, who, has gotten grief for other things, but as soon as I brought this to them, they were like, holy shit. That's what an actual journalistic outlet who can recognize criminal evidence. So we got it out. Again, the media wouldn't touch it. A couple local outlets in Michigan did, but the wider media wouldn't touch it. Partially, I think, because this happened under Obama and Biden, because Biden likes to take credit for all good things under Obama.
Also, the mainstream media might have to admit that you found it.
Yes, correct. And by the way, time and time again over the last few years, my partner Jen and I, because we've broken these stories together, I literally said to the Detroit Free Press, just throw one of your reporters' names on the story with me. If you want, you could put it first. I mean, yeah, we all, want to be recognized for our work, but this was not an ego thing. I said, put one of your people's name on it, because maybe that would make them feel good that it looks like it was, them. Wouldn't do it. And to me, this has happened many times. Detroit Free Press, Newsweek, other outlets. This is not like just your average, all right, and a reporter thinks something is big, but the outlet doesn't. This is like documents from a criminal investigation showing crimes that they pass on. And, I'm working on a follow-up now. And honestly, at this point, I don't particularly know if I had found video of Rick Snyder pouring lead into the water, I don't know if CNN would touch it. I really don't. There's something seriously wrong. There's something seriously wrong with our media system. It's not really about information anymore. It's about infotainment and ratings and clicks and whatever. And yeah, like I said, it's the people of Flint. I mean, to tell you the truth, I don't even think the majority of Flint residents are aware of the information we reported, because how would they know? Flint Journal won't cover it. Detroit News won't cover it. Detroit Free Press won't cover it. It's truly scary. I'm going to write a book at some point just on the corporate media, because I have stacks of emails and correspondence with corporate outlets from my Flint reporting and other things, literally asking me, is there a connection to Trump, for totally unrelated stories that are important. It's just mind-boggling stuff. And you start wondering, I mean, this goes back to what do independent channels do? Because in the old days, the hard part was actually breaking the information, not getting it like circulated. But now it's not easy, but like the easier part is actually building the sources, breaking the evidence. The hard part is getting anyone to touch it. And and I'm talking like Michael Moore. It took me 5 years just to get him to know about it. And part of that is because Michael Moore gets his information from MSNBC and other places. So if MSNBC is not covering what an independent outlet is breaking, somebody like Michael Moore, who has, if he screams about it, it'll get attention. So it's just, the whole thing is messed up. I'm literally working on a piece now. I got evidence that phones were wiped clean and other things in the Snyder administration. I truly don't know. I don't know. It seems that no matter what information we break, there's parking tickets handed out. I mean, Snyder just got a misdemeanor charge. Right. And it's really something. It's truly something based on the evidence that we've reported, that the governor of a state that 100,000 poor people were poisoned got a misdemeanor.
Yeah, of course, I was kidding when I introduced this. The charges are borderline nothing. It really is a parking ticket. I mean, it is our justice system again defending the rich and the powerful as they kill and sicken thousands of people, almost entirely poor people, many of them people of color, and those are the people that this country puts in corporate sacrifice zones that are just exploited and their lives destroyed, but that doesn't matter.
And by the way, like going back to the original discussion, Politico just did a piece, it's still up, saying Flint's water is safe. Why don't residents trust it? I mean, anybody that stepped foot in Flint, I've been there a lot, will tell you, no, the water's not safe. It still smells. People still get rashes. I speak with people who are still losing hair in the shower. I mean, all you got to do is step foot in Flint, talk to residents.
So what are they getting their info, like the EPA or something?
No, but that's not harmful content. Politico, that's not harmful. It's still up.
Telling people to drink tainted water is, it's totally acceptable.
No, they literally are getting their information from the Governor Rick Snyder, who my partner and I, Jen, years ago, we broke that they were manipulating the testing. They were flushing people's water. I think I spoke with you about it at the time. They were cooking the data. We had it. Newsweek killed that story at the last minute. We literally bit our tongue. We went to work with Newsweek on it because, hey, if we get it in a corporate outlet, maybe it will get passed around. And Newsweek, I think 2 days before it was supposed to go out, said we didn't have enough data. I said to them, when is the last time Newsweek knocked on 40 doors, let alone 400? We don't have enough data. We have dozens of residents on the record telling us that environmental officials came into their homes, ran their water for 30 seconds to 6 minutes, and then collected the samples. The EPA is on the record. That's a violation of their testing. So there's something.
You mean they run the water to get rid of kind of the dirtier part? And
the lead. Yeah, they flush out lead, copper, and then you get a lower level. I mean, it's totally against the EPA regulations. I mean, the EPA's regulations are a joke anyway, but whatever regulations there are, it's against regulations. We did something radical. We knocked on doors, journalism. And
we did something radical called journalism. Yeah.
Yeah. And that was buried. And it's bigger than Flint. I mean, I don't want to do a bad pun, but the media is poisonous because the media is not covering things as much as they're covering up things. And it truly, we talk about the need for more diversity in our politics, right? Well, we need more diversity in our media. And I'm not talking about skin color or gender. You cannot have any more multimillionaires telling you what's going on in the country. I mean, Chris Cuomo, Anderson Cooper, Morning Joe, these people are out of touch, intentionally so. And that's the reason, progressive candidates like Bernie are made radical when they would be considered centrist in other countries. That's the reason nobody knows that Flint's water is still unsafe. That's the reason. Nobody knows. There was literally one of the biggest cover-ups, government cover-ups of this century we have reported on, and nobody knows about it because the media is burying it. And, they like to knock you and others as state media. The only state media I see is CNN, New York Times, Washington Post, Associated Press. I mean, I literally just spoke on the phone for 2 hours with an AP reporter. He was nice, saying, how do you report on the charges against Snyder without reporting that? I don't care if you mention my name, but a recent reporting just came out that investigators had found he covered up a deadly bacterial outbreak for a year and a half. How do those two not go together? And I was just given a lot of platitudes, and I'll talk to my bosses and blah, blah, blah. So, there's something very, very wrong in our media system. And I think people need to realize if you're going to prioritize who to protest, you could protest Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, Joe Biden till you're blue in the face. But if you don't protest CNN, New York Times, Washington Post, Google, Facebook, all these platforms, they are the real gatekeepers maintaining the status quo.
Right.
That's 100%.
Right. And right now, if you were to Google Rick Snyder, I'm sure you wouldn't find your reporting on him covering this stuff up, because that's by design as well. Google is making sure that's on the second or third page of the search results. And guess what? No one gets to the second page of the search results. It's like fucking going to no man's land. You need a Sherpa. You need to pack a bag. No one does that. So, you can't even find my name on Twitter. My partner just said, I typed in @Jordan Chariton and nothing came up. So there you go. Yeah. I've noticed that happening too. Well, Jordan, thank you so much. What's the best place for people to keep up with Status Coup? Yep. It's youtube.com/Status Coup while we're there. And @Status Coup on Twitter. We're about to totally redo our website so that, we have a backup plan. And we are definitely, appreciative of, we're membership based. That's how we get out in the field. So you could go to our website, statuscoup.com. And if you got any money, memberships as cheap as $5 a month. All right. Thanks a lot, Jordan. I hope to talk to you soon. Keep up the investigating. All right, man. Thanks. Yeah, thanks. All right, everybody. Hope you enjoyed that. That's Jordan Sheridan. These are fucking scary times with our media. The independent media is just being crushed at every turn. And then you turn on CNN or Fox News or something, and they, Fox News is its own animal of fucking lunacy. But you turn on CNN or something, and they act like, the real problem is the fake news on YouTube. And it's like, no, motherfuckers. The real problem is that you wouldn't know journalism if it bit you in the ass. Anyway. That's it for today. Thanks for hanging out. As I said, all the donations, all the Super Chat donations will be going to Food Not Bombs this week. And I will be back soon with another of these. I do these every single weekday, except sometimes. And they're at leecamp.com. So even if you don't get an alert telling you to come watch, please head on over to leecamp.com and check them out, because guess what? My channel is going to be next. And the other thing is, the demonetizing would suck because I won't be able to raise funds for causes like Food Not Bombs if they do that to me. But the other thing about demonetizing is they stop showing your videos. They stop recommending them to people. And I've been dealing with that at some level or another for a long time, but it'll get worse because once you're marked as demonetized for being disruptive content, then of course YouTube's not going to recommend your video to anybody. So it's multiple problems. But all right, guys, hope you enjoyed that. And yeah, check out my podcasts, Common Censored and Government Secrets. Graham and I will be back with part 3 of the JFK assassination on Government Secrets this Friday at, I think we're doing 6 p.m. Eastern on Graham's channel, which has just been demonetized because he has disruptive content or whatever the fuck they call it. It's utter horseshit. And we have to keep shrieking from the hills that this is censorship. It's wrong. It's fucked up while we build up the alternative platforms. All right, guys, I will see you soon. Keep fighting.